In the English language, if you say, I did this, then I did that, there's not really any other way that you can say it. But in Arabic, there's multiple different ways that you can say then. So for example, if you say, I did this, thumma I did that, thumma here means that there's a slight delay before you do the second thing. But if you say, I did this, fa I did that, then this fa means that you did the second thing immediately. So thumma means there's a delay and then you do the second thing, and fa means that you do the second thing immediately. Now, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lists exactly how the human being is formed in the womb of the mother, and he uses thumma and fa interchangeably, which science has confirmed to 100% precision. So pay attention because the next few minutes are going to be incredible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِّن طِينٍ, that indeed we created mankind from an extract of clay, meaning from elements taken from earth. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, ثُمَّ, so he uses thumma with delay, جَعَلْنَاهُ نُطْفَةً فِي قَرَارٍ مَكِينٍ. Then, with a delay, Allah placed this human from this clay, these elements, as a nutfa in a secure place, meaning it's planted in the womb. So let's ask the question, why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used thumma in this verse? Well, if you think about it, of course, the husband and the wife, they need to try and have a baby, right? And of course this could take days, it could take months, it could even take years. But eventually fertilization happens where the sperm fuses with the egg. After the sperm fuses with the egg, it then starts to multiply and divide as it travels down the fallopian tube. And this takes about 10 days until it is implanted in the uterus wall. So all of this delay, Allah uses thumma to explain the transition from us being created from an extract of elements from earth to the point where we're planted in the uterus wall. And so linguistically, this verse is absolutely spot on. But before we move on to the next verse, there's actually another miracle which is incredible. Again, a linguistic and even scientific miracle. You see, when the sperm fuses with the egg and it multiplies and divides, it's called a zygote. But by the time it reaches the uterus wall and is implanted, it scientifically becomes something known as a blastocyst. Now, a blastocyst is just a ball of cells. It doesn't have any blood in it yet, it's just literally just a clump of cells, a ball, like a hollow sphere. And if you look at medical images of it, it literally looks like a drop of liquid. Now the word here Allah uses in this verse, and you probably noticed when I read it, is that the thing that's planted in the uterus wall is a nutfa. A nutfa, linguistically in Arabic, means a tiny drop of liquid, which matches the exact description of this nutfa and this blastocyst. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, ثُمَّ خَلَقْنَا النُّطْفَةَ عَلَقًا. Then, again with a delay, we developed this drop, this nutfa that we just explained, into a alaqa. And again, we're going to explain what alaqa means. You see, after implantation, after this blastocyst is implanted in the uterus wall, there's a delay of about 4 days before a process starts known as gastrulation. And gastrulation is where the nutfa develops a primitive blood system. And now this primitive blood system means it has blood inside of it. And then it also develops a connecting stalk which clings to the uterus wall. Once that happens, this scientific name of this structure is no longer a blastocyst, it now becomes an attached embryo. Now the first miracle here, of course, is that there's a 4-day delay before this process of gastrulation takes place. And so Allah uses thumma, which shows you the linguistic perfection of the Quran so far. But the second miracle is that an attached embryo can only be seen under a microscope. Otherwise, the naked eye cannot see it. Yet Allah uses the word alaqa to describe this attached embryo. What is a alaqa? A alaqa, linguistically in the Arabic language, means a clinging blood clot. But not only that, it also means a leech. So a clinging blood clot and a leech. Of course, we know that it's clinging because of the connecting stalk. And we know that it looks like a blood clot because it literally looks like a blood clot, but scientifically because it has a primitive blood system as well. But what's an attached embryo got to do with a leech? When you look at images of an attached embryo, you'll see that it has the exact same elongated structure with a thickened head as a leech. And not only that, but if you look at an embryo and a leech under an X-ray, you'll find that they look pretty much identical. And if you look at the head of a leech under an electron microscope, which is super zoomed in, something that was impossible to be known 1400 years ago, and you look at the head of an embryo under an electron microscope, they look almost identical too. And just like the leech sucks blood for nutrition from the human, the embryo sucks oxygen and nutrients from the mother for its nutrition too, like a leech. Absolutely unbelievable. You have to realize that this information could not have been known 1400 years ago. So much so that even Professor Keith Moore, who was the leader of embryology back in his time, he made the admission that this information in the Quran must be divine. In the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he then switches to fa. So he's gone from thumma and now to fa, meaning the thing that happens next is instant. فَخَلَقَنَا الْعَلَقَةَ مُضْغَةً. Then we developed this alaqa, this attached embryo, into a lump of flesh, which Allah refers to as a mudgha. Now remember the word mudgha because linguistically this is a miracle too. When the alaqa is formed, the attached embryo, as soon as it's been formed, scientifically speaking, it starts a process straight away known as somite segmentation, which develops these things called somites in the embryo. Now somites are essentially blocks of tissue that run along the embryo's back, which lays the foundations for different parts of the body to grow, like the spine and the ribs and other things like different muscles and so on and so forth. And these somites, they then become cartilage afterwards, okay? And so the first miracle here in this verse is that Allah uses the letter fa to describe an instant transformation from the alaqa to this new structure with somites inside of it. But the second miracle is that the word Allah uses to describe this second thing is a mudgha. What is a mudgha? A mudgha linguistically means a lump that's chewed on. It's like a chewed-like substance. And subhanallah, if you look at the process scientifically, these somites, they have a ridged appearance. They form segmented patterns along the embryo, which kind of looks like tooth marks pressed into a piece of chewing gum, which matches exactly the word used to describe this structure in the Quran, which is mudgha. Subhanallah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses fa again, and he says, فَخَلَقَنَا الْمُضْغَةَ عِظَامًا. Then we developed straight away, instantly, this mudgha into bones. Now, didn't I say in the previous section that these somites become cartilage? Once that happens, instantly a process known as ossification starts straight away, which is essentially where this cartilage that's formed starts to ossify and become hardened and starts to turn into bone. And because this process is instant, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses fa instead of thumma. Subhanallah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, فَكَسَوْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا. Then we instantly clothed the bones with flesh. And scientifically, as the bones are ossifying and hardening, the process of muscle formation starts to happen, which starts to wrap the bones in layers like this, just as Allah described it with the use of fa, because this is an instant transition to the next section. Subhanallah. And now, in the next verse, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used fa a couple of times, he then switches back to thumma, meaning the next thing that's going to happen, there's going to be a delay. And then he says, thumma أَنْشَأْنَاهُ خَلْقًا آخَرَ. Then we brought it into being as a brand new creation. Subhanallah, with a delay. Now, why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala switched from fa to thumma here, saying there's a delay? Because until the baby is born, from the moment the bones are clothed with flesh, many other processes happen. So for example, the baby's body is proportioned and its organs are refined. The fetus matures, it grows bigger and bigger and bigger. The face develops, the skin develops, its nail develops, its hair starts to show, the lungs prepare for breathing, the brain becomes more complex, the nervous system becomes more connected. And all of this happens in the next few months until the baby is born, brand new, ready to live its life independent of the mother's womb. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word thumma instead of fa, meaning there's a delay which matches everything linguistically and perfectly. Do you see how perfect the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are? This information could not have been known 1400 years ago. And what you can see is that for every stage of the human development that has a delay between it, Allah uses thumma. And for every single stage that has an immediate consequence, it happens straight away, Allah uses fa. And every word used to describe the growing baby in every stage is divinely linguistically perfect. Nutfa, drop of liquid. Alaqa, a clinging blood clot that is also a leech. Subhanallah, a mudgha, a lump that looks like it's chewed. And not only that, but the ordering of each stage is absolutely scientifically perfect. Nutfa, turns into a alaqa. Alaqa turns into a mudgha. A mudgha becomes bone. And the bone is then wrapped in flesh. And then it becomes a new creation. Subhanallah, it's perfect. And there's absolutely no way any human being with a rational mind can deny this miracle. And so for the Muslims watching this, and even the non-Muslims watching this, realize that these reminders, this video you've watched, is to wake you up and to make you realize that you have a divine purpose. And that divine purpose is Islam, and this is the proof right before your eyes. أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Did you really think that we created you without purpose and that you would never be returned to us? So turn back to your Creator before you return to your Creator.